Have you ever had one of those moments where you stop mid scroll on your phone and you think to yourself, wait a second, do I have ADHD? That's a common story that a lot of people give. Like they're as an adult, they're sitting there on their couch watching a TikTok, watching one of my videos sometimes, and then bam, some random stranger describes their entire personality in some silly 60-second video. And I can't tell you how many times people reach out to me and say that they watch these videos and they wish they, had the next course of action. They didn't know what to do. Sometimes they go into denial, and then sometimes they'll just spiral into research. Sometimes they'll sit with that information in silence for months because they're afraid of being wrong about it, or worse, being right about it. But I want to talk to you about my experience, about how once I actually started the process of getting tested for ADHD, I realized that getting tested for ADHD as an adult, it's not as scary as I thought. It's just really confusing. That's all it is. So that's what we're going to talk about today on this week's episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. We're going to talk about how to actually get tested for ADHD as an adult, what it looks like, what it costs, where to go, who to trust, all of that real stuff that no one ever explained to us. That is today's episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. Welcome, my friends. I hope that you're doing well today. It is a beautiful, beautiful month of July. The weather is beautiful outside right now, at least when I'm recording this. I'm recording this on a Sunday, July 6th. I'm recording this, and it's a beautiful weather. Let's see what it is. 89 degrees outside. It's a little humid, but I'm okay with that because I definitely complained a couple weeks ago here in the Philadelphia area, South Jersey, when it was cold and rainy. And now it's hot and humid, no rain. And so I have no reason to complain. I really don't. I have no reason to complain. But I'm happy to be sitting here with all of you today. All right, my friends, let's get into the main topic: how to get tested for ADHD as an adult. Let's break this all down. How do you actually get tested for ADHD as an adult? First things first, there's no magic ADHD test. That's one of the biggest myths floating around. You don't just walk into a clinic and circle strongly agree 5 times and then boom, you walk out with a diagnosis and a prescription. That's just not how it works. ADHD testing is a multi-step process. And while that might sound overwhelming, knowing what to expect makes it way less intimidating. So typically the process includes, first and foremost, a clinical interview where the provider asked about your current struggles, things like focus, impulsivity, memory, emotions, and how it all affects your day-to-day life. Then you have questionnaires or self-assessments, which you fill out. Sometimes they'll ask a parent or a partner or someone who knows you for a long time to fill one out as well. A childhood history review, because for a formal ADHD diagnosis, the symptoms need to have been present before the age of 12. That doesn't mean that you need school records or exact memories, but they'll usually ask about your behavior back then or talk to someone from early in your life, if possible. Screening for the other mental conditions like anxiety, depression, trauma, sleep issues, those are part of it too, because those can overlap with ADHD or even mimic ADHD symptoms. So a good evaluator wants to make sure that nothing else is being missed or misdiagnosed. The entire process usually takes between 2 and 3 hours, sometimes broken up over multiple sessions. Some evaluations are quick and straightforward. Others might go a little bit deeper, especially if your symptoms are a little bit more complex or if there's other things going on like anxiety, trauma history, mood disorders, things like that. Now, let's just say you're sitting there thinking, okay, cool, but where do I actually start? There's a couple solid options here. Number one, you can start with your primary care doctor, right? For a lot of adults wondering if they have ADHD, their primary care doctor or their PCP is the first stop. It makes sense. They already know your medical history. You might feel more comfortable with them. It's usually quicker to get an appointment with your PCP compared to a specialist. In some cases, your PCP might feel confident enough to run a screening or even provide a diagnosis themselves, especially if your symptoms are straightforward and you've already been tracking them with your doctor. If not, they can at least refer you to someone who specializes in ADHD evaluations. But here's where it gets tricky. Not all primary care doctors are trained in adult ADHD. Some were only taught how it presents in young boys, things like bouncing off the walls, blurting out in class. So they might overlook quieter or more internalized symptoms like daydreaming, disorganization, emotional overwhelm. That means if you're a woman or a person of color or someone who's high functioning, it's possible that your concerns could be brushed off or misunderstood. I know a lot of you listening right now being like, yeah, I've been there. This could be incredibly discouraging, especially if you've built up the courage to finally ask for help. So if this is your starting point, go unprepared, advocate for yourself, bring a symptom log, use specific examples from your daily life. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to be honest. And if you feel dismissed or if you feel like you're not being taken seriously, it's okay to get a second opinion. You're not being difficult. You're just making sure that your symptoms are heard by someone who knows what to look for. Getting answers, it shouldn't feel like a battle, but sometimes knowing what you're up against, it can make all the difference. So that's number one, talk to your PCP. Number two, you can talk to a licensed therapist or a psychologist. So if you're looking for a thorough and reliable diagnosis, a licensed therapist or psychologist is often your best choice. These professionals are trained to recognize the different ways that ADHD can show up, especially in adults. They're not going to ask you yes or no questions. They'll dig into your patterns. They'll dig into some context. They'll dig into how your brain works across different areas of life. A good evaluator of ADHD, adult ADHD, will spend some time getting to know your history, your present day challenges, and how all of it connects with each other. Many of these people will use structured interviews and standardized tools to go deeper than like a basic screener, which will make the diagnosis a little bit more accurate and a lot more useful. So it's a good idea to search for someone who clearly lists adult ADHD or executive functioning in their profile or on their website. This means that they understand that adult ADHD can look like procrastination, forgetfulness, emotional reactivity, burnout, not just hyperactivity or poor grades. After the evaluation, they'll usually provide a written report summarizing your results. They'll give you a report that talks about your diagnosis and they'll also possibly give you some recommendations. This document, it can be helpful, not just for your own clarity, but also for accommodations at work, school, or even pursuing medication through a psychiatrist. So that's number two. Number one, talk to your PCP. Number two, talk to a licensed therapist or a psychologist. Number three, and I just mentioned this, talk to a psychiatrist. If you're considering medication as a part of your ADHD journey, working with a psychiatrist might be the right move. Psychiatrists are medical doctors who specialize in mental health and can prescribe medication, which sets them apart from therapists or psychologists. Some psychologists will do a full ADHD evaluation themselves, but more often, they'll ask you to come with documentation from a licensed psychologist or a therapist who has already done the testing. This helps them confirm the diagnosis before writing any sort of prescriptions, and it ensures that they have a full picture of your symptoms and your history. Once you have that diagnosis, a psychiatrist can work with you to explore medication options if that's the path that you want to take. It's not mandatory. It's just the path that you can take. They're going to help you understand how different medications work, what side effects for each of them are, what to look out for, how to find the right dosage over time. Now, that part often involves some trial and error. So it's really helpful to have a provider who listens in and checks in with you regularly. Not everybody with ADHD chooses medication, but if you do, having a psychiatrist involved can help make the process feel a lot more supported and more informed. Number one, talk to your primary care doctor, your PCP. Number two, talk to a licensed therapist or psychologist. Number three, talk to a psychiatrist. Number four, there are online ADHD testing platforms out there. This is one of the biggest changes that we've seen in ADHD care because you can now get assessed entirely online. Telehealth has made evaluations more accessible than ever before, especially for people in remote areas or those who struggle with in-person appointments. Platforms like ADHD Online help out. I used to partner with the organization called Done, and they're all run by licensed professionals who follow proper diagnostic procedures for ADHD. So you'll fill out an extensive questionnaire about your symptoms, your life history, your functioning, and a licensed clinician will then review your answers and determine whether you meet the criteria for ADHD. Some services, they will even offer a written report that you can take to your doctor or to a psychiatrist. Now, with all of that being said, let's talk about money. One of the biggest perks here, when it comes to online ADHD testing platforms, is the money side of it. The biggest perk here is speed and affordability. Instead of waiting 3 to 6 months for an in-person evaluation, you might have your results in just a few days. Prices usually start around like $189, which is significantly cheaper than full neuropsych evaluations. Now, that said, not all platforms are created equal. Some don't offer ongoing support or access to providers for follow-up questions. Others can't prescribe medication, meaning that you'll still need to loop in a local doctor in order for you to keep moving forward. So before committing to any of these online ADHD platforms, you need to do your homework. Check the reviews, verify licenses, and make sure that the service fits your needs and your goals. Let's talk about cost in general, because this part actually absolutely matters. For many adults wondering if they have ADHD, the biggest roadblock isn't fear, it's finances. Evaluations aren't always cheap, and figuring out what's covered and what's not under your insurance can be a headache in and of itself. The truth is, ADHD testing can look very different depending on where you go, who you see, and how detailed the evaluation is. So it's important to understand what your options are before diving in. Online evaluations are often the most affordable starting point. Services like ADHD Online, Done, the ones I was talking about before, they usually range around like $189, $250. Some of these include a written report that you can share with your doctor or your employer, while others might require some additional steps to get that documentation. These platforms tend to move quickly. Like I said before, you're going to have your results in days. But you got to double check what's included. Are you getting a diagnosis? Are you getting a full report? Are you getting a follow-up with a provider? Know what you're paying for so that you're not caught off guard later. Now, if you choose to go in person, the price usually goes up. A basic evaluation with a therapist or a psychologist might cost between $295 to $800 out of pocket, depending on where you live and how experienced your provider is. If you're doing a full neuropsychological evaluation, which includes extra testing around memory, attention, learning style, cognitive function, that can run between $2,000 and $4,500, if not more. That level of testing is usually only recommended when it's only recommended when your case is complex or if there's overlapping conditions. Most adults don't need that level of depth just to get an ADHD diagnosis. Now, here's the good news. The good news is that most health insurance plans do cover ADHD testing as long as it's considered medically necessary. This means that your provider will need to say that your symptoms are causing significant problems for you at work, in your relationship, or in your daily life. So call your insurance company and ask them, is ADHD testing covered? Do I need a referral? Do I need prior authorization? You can also ask whether HSA or FSA funds can be used. Spoiler alert, they usually can. Every plan is different, so it's worth making the call and getting the details straight from the insurance company themselves. I know what you're thinking. Kai, what if I don't have insurance? Or what if my plan doesn't cover testing? First of all, I gotcha. You're not alone. This is a huge barrier for so many people. If money is tight, you can consider starting with free or low-cost screeners that are online. There's credible places out there like chadd.org, chadd.org. You can start there just to get a sense of where you stand. Next, you can look into local universities with psychology programs. They often offer discounted testing done by supervised students that are in training. You can also search for community mental health clinics or sliding scale providers in your area. And if you need an official diagnosis for accommodations or for work or anything, but you can't afford traditional routes, you can reach out to ADHD advocacy groups. They may be able to help you find resources or even connect you with grants or financial aid programs that might help. So it might take a little bit of digging, but affordable options do exist. And most importantly, needing help and not being able to afford it right now, it doesn't make you any less worthy of answers or support. Okay. Now, here's something I want to say as clearly as possible. There is zero shame in wanting clarity, whether you're 18 years old or 58 years old. Seeking a diagnosis isn't about labeling yourself. It's about understanding yourself. It's about giving yourself context and language and tools. It's not a stamp. It's a map. And I won't lie to you, this process, it can be very frustrating. I hear people all the time. People write me all the time about this. Yeah, sometimes the wait lists are long. Sometimes you're going to get a provider who doesn't listen. Or sometimes you're going to get someone who says, you seem fine, because you're doing well in your job and you're not bouncing off the walls. That's why it's so important to find someone who really gets adult ADHD, especially how it shows up in women, how it shows up in people of color, how it shows up in the LGBTQ plus community, how it shows up in high functioning people who've been masking for years. You might also, after you get a diagnosis, after you get it, you might also feel a wave of emotions after a diagnosis. You might feel relief, anger, sadness. You might feel grief. You know, all of the characters in the movie, what's that movie? That Pixar movie? Oh, what's it called? Oh, no. Oh, wait, hold on. This is going to bother me. My ADHD is going to bother me. Pixar mental health movie. Inside Out. There we go. I could not remember it. But as I'm like picturing all the emotions, I could not think of the name of that freaking movie. We're all good now. We're all good now. Inside Out, and Inside Out 2. But anyway, after you get your diagnosis, you might feel a lot of those emotions. Just know that that's normal. After I got my initial diagnosis, I remember one of the biggest feelings I felt was I blamed the adults in my life for the longest time, because I was sitting there, I was like, how did they not see the symptoms? The symptoms, I look back at it now, the symptoms were clear as freaking day. The symptoms were so clear. How did they not see it? And so I would blame them, and I would get so angry with them. And then it turned into sadness, because I was like, man, I wonder what my life would have been like if I would have caught this sooner. Would my life have changed? Would I be in a better spot in my life now? And then from there, like that sadness turned into grief. And so that's why I started, I continued working with my my therapist to make sure that I had I was processing all of this correctly. I'm not saying that you're not supposed to feel those things. You're allowed to feel those things. You're supposed to feel those things. You are a human being. You're allowed and you're supposed to feel those things. It's all about how you process it, and you want to process it in a healthy way. You want to keep yourself moving forward. So just know that after you get your diagnosis, all those feelings that you're going to have, that's normal. That's part of your journey. You spent your whole life just trying to, quote, just try harder. And then suddenly somebody says, hey, your brain just works a little bit differently. And then when that happens, yeah, it's a lot to process. But here's the thing. You're not being dramatic. You're not making excuses. You're not broken. You're just trying to figure out how your brain works. And guess what? That's brave as hell. That's brave as hell. Getting tested won't solve everything overnight, but it can be the first step in finally understanding the why behind so many of your struggles. And that understanding, that's where real life self-compassion begins. So if you're sitting on the fence, wondering if it's worth it, let me tell you, you deserve to know yourself. You deserve support that fits you. And no matter what the outcome is, this journey that you're on is valid. You're not behind. You're not too late. You're exactly where you're meant to be. You're asking the right questions. And that's a powerful place to start. All right, friends, it's time for the Vibe with Kai podcast tip of the week. Tip time. If you're planning on getting tested, my biggest tip for today, start a symptom log. Start it. Symptom log. It sounds boring, yes, but here's why it helps. Evaluators people that are evaluating for ADHD, they want real life examples. And most of us ADHDers, yeah, our memory is like a broken vending machine. It's like the ice cream, the milkshake machine at McDonald's. It's broken. You hit the button and nothing comes out. That's ADHD memory for you. So start logging the stuff that happens daily. Did you lose your keys today? Did you forget to eat? Did you get super focused on something completely random for 5 hours? Write that shit down. Keep it simple. Just one sentence a day in your notes app, or anything you want. There's an app that I love to use. I'll put the link for it in the description of this podcast. It's called Human Health, and you can log all of your symptoms. You can log all that stuff for free, by the way. Like, just download it. It's going to help. I'll put the link in the description of this podcast. It's going to be worth it. I promise you. You can keep everything in there. You want to keep receipts. Just write down one thing a day. So that way, when your evaluation comes around, you're going to have receipts to back you up. When it might backfire, well, if you start obsessing over your symptoms, that's when it might backfire. Or if you're using it as you're writing down your symptoms, you're starting to shame yourself. If that's starting to happen, pause. The point is clarity, not self-criticism. All right, it's time for some listener Q&A. These are questions that I get all of the time, and I want to answer it for you right now. Here's the question. I think I have ADHD, but I'm scared to get tested because what if I'm wrong? What if they say I'm just lazy? My friend, you are not lazy. You are not crazy for feeling that way, though. A lot of us, we're told growing up that we were just lazy or careless or too sensitive. And that stuff, it gets in our bones. So yeah, it makes total sense that you'd be scared. But here's the thing. ADHD isn't about being lazy. It's about how your brain processes time. It's about how your brain processes focus and emotion and reward. And if it's not ADHD, that's still information and that's still worth knowing. So try this instead. Reframe the testing process as a fact-finding mission. It's not a pass or fail type of test. It's not a verdict on your character. It's just a tool to help you understand your brain. And I promise, no one who truly understands ADHD is going to judge you. Okay? I promise. All right, my friends, that's it for this week's episode of the Vibe with Kai podcast. If this has helped you or if it made you feel a little less alone, I'd love it if you hit that subscribe button, the rating or a review. We have new episodes every single week. It seriously helps more people find this space and helps more people feel seen. So if you don't mind, please leave a review, whether you're listening on YouTube or Facebook or Spotify, Apple, wherever you're listening or watching right now, please leave a review. That way it can help more people find this space and feel seen. And hey, listen, if you're thinking about getting tested, understand this, you got this. I promise. That first step, it might feel scary, but it's also a sign that you're ready to understand yourself better. Whether it's Googling a provider, joining a wait list, or just journaling your symptoms, it all counts and it's all valid. With that said, don't forget to grab my digital guidebook, which is Navigating ADHD and Adulthood. It is full of real life stuff that I wish I knew sooner. Checklist, mindset shifts, everyday tools that help you feel more in control, even on these messy days. I'm going to include a link for that in my description of this podcast episode as well. Also, if you're looking for ADHD coaching, I partner with my good friends over at Shimmer ADHD Coaching, and they're doing some amazing, amazing things. I'm really good friends with the folks over there. Shimmer connects you with real ADHD coaches who just get it. There's no fluff, there's no shame, none of that. And if you use the code Vibe with Kai, you will get $75 off of your ADHD coaching session when you sign up. I wanted to provide this kind of opportunity for everybody out there that's listening because, number one, I believe in Shimmer because the people over there are good and I know what they're doing. And I've had a couple of them on my podcast and they're just good people. And I know that there's a lot of people that are looking for ADHD coaching. They're not necessarily looking for anything else other than coaching right now. But it is something that you can do by itself. It is also something that you can do alongside with your therapy. So consider that. Just go check out the website. I included a link for that in the description of this podcast. And with that said, as always, my friends, email me anytime. Email me at vibe@thevibewithkai.com or DM me on Instagram or on Facebook. I want to hear your stories. I want to hear your wins. I want to hear your questions. This Vibe with Kai community, it only gets stronger when we all show up for each other. Okay. With that said, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. With that said, my friends, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. As always, much love, good vibes. I'll catch you next time. Bye.